Let me ask you, I referred earlier to the assassination attempt against you, and it's very fashionable, among like the permanent victim class, like every, BLM leader was, they're trying to kill me, or Seth, whatever, from the Babylon Bee, people are trying to kill me, and people use threats against them, which are like daily for a lot of us, as a way to kind of make themselves unassailable or immune from criticism, or to attack their enemies. Your words inspired violence. What is stochastic terror? I can't even pronounce it. It's like some academic term, whatever. But you had a real assassination attempt, like an actual one, which got no publicity that I recall. What happened?
Yeah, well, it was after the election last year. I put out this tweet and I said, your body, my choice on election night. And, I wasn't, look, I'm not going to apologize for it, but I thought it was like it's like a lame joke. It's kind of like the most obvious turn of phrase.
It's a college joke. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
So I had other good jokes that night, but that was like the one that caught on. Because I just think I had other good jokes that night, but that was like the one that caught on. Because I just think it captured the imagination of liberals who were like, it's over for us, which it kind of is, but in some ways. But so I put that out there. I didn't even vote for Trump, but I put that tweet out.
Who'd you vote for?
I didn't vote at all. I just recused myself. But that's just what makes it ironic, because I became in some ways emblematic of the election, even though I didn't participate. But so it got 100 million impressions on Twitter, and people were saying on the news that kids were saying it in school. It was on like the news that in middle schools and high schools, the boys were saying that to the girls, your body, my choice. So it became this thing where it's like, he's creating this toxic environment for women. So the internet lost its mind, and people then started posting my address online because they were so unhappy with the tweet. And so on TikTok and on Twitter, a screenshot of my address, my phone number, all my personal information.
Which is crazy, because if you think about it, like I never heard about the attempted murder. I know that at one point they had said somebody showed up to his house, but I didn't hear about the details that there were. And it goes back to speaking of to the process of, okay, you don't like what somebody says, fine, but to then go to their house to try to attack them for it, I think that's wild. And I don't think that should happen to anybody. Like, this is what I do, the same shit. I just talk shit on the internet, and I might not, I might stay away from certain topics, and I might, be more of a centrist and not as right leaning or even left leaning. But I also talk about things that people may not like. So in a sense, I guess I'm on the fence with it, only because like I don't want somebody figuring out where I live and doing the same shit they did to him.
Oof. It went viral. And when I say viral, I mean there were multiple tweets that got 20 million views with my whole readout, all my information.
Like your actual address where you spend the night?
Yes, where I live, where I do my show, all of it.
Damn, did you know that?
Yeah, I started to see it. So the election Tuesday, obviously, it was like Thursday that my address starts blowing up. I was going to do a show Friday, and someone shows up to my house. Some weird looking guy shows up to my house and just walks through the yard, walks through the gangway into the backyard, and is just circling my house and then goes away. So we call the cops, me and my producer, and we said, maybe we shouldn't do a show tonight. And that weekend, we hired private security just for the weekend, like 200 people.
You didn't have security?
No, I don't have security. Well, I didn't then.
Of any kind?
I didn't have cameras or anything even.
That's wild. That's a wild boy.
Okay.
I was raw dogging it. Yeah, which was not smart, maybe, but.
Not at all.
Never had a problem like that.
I've always lived that way too.
Yeah. But so that weekend, we hired a security guard just to park his car outside the house and monitor things. Literally 200 people came.
To your house?
Yes. Not all at once, but one after the other. Driving by, yelling, walking by, throwing eggs. Multiple people threw eggs at my house, ordering pizzas, ordering DoorDash, whatever, walking through the gangway. It was like a war zone. Like this security guard was yelling at people all night, and it went on all weekend. And then it went on throughout the next week and the next weekend. And it was bad. I got out of my house. I went to a hotel for a week while this was happening, waited for it to blow over.
You do your show from the hotel?
No, I took a week off.
Wow.
Just
Did
to
you
let
announce any of this in public?
No, I had to keep it very...
Why?
I didn't want to track more of it.
Yeah.
You know, because if you say, oh, they're here, then people go, oh, no, we got to keep up the pressure, you know,
Right.
or turn it up.
It's like
And people
flies
at
to
that
shit.
time were talking about burning my house down. Like on TikTok, there were viral videos of people saying, we're going to burn his house down. And then they doxed my parents' address. People are showing up to my parents' house. It got really bad. And eventually it just blew over. About a month passed. And at that time, so it was like late December. It's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me.
Why?
And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh,
I'm a
shit.
fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was an admirer. But we don't need to
That's
go
a
into that. I guess.
wild ass
Like,
thing to say.
Well, that's okay. Let's get back.
Well,
to We'll circle back to that.
It was weird because the reason I mentioned that, it was almost like, because I woke up that day and I was like, oh, it's December 18th. And I was just like very acutely aware of like, today's like a strange day. This is the day that the attempt happened. And so nothing had been happening for weeks at this point. So election's like what, November 3rd, month and a half has passed. Nobody's coming to my house anymore, rarely. And I'm doing my show like normal. And I'm reaching the end of the show and
Listen, I'm not the kind of person who tries to convince people like, hey, believe this or believe that. That's not how I move, number one. Number two, I agree with you. That's an insane thought process. Why is he a fan of Joseph Stalin, knows his birthday? You know, I would want to hear his explanation, but Joseph Stalin was, for lack of a better word, not a very good ruler. I don't know how you want to put it. You know, dude was a dictator. He was, he was a communist. It's really simple. Stalin was a communist. He killed a lot of Russians. He killed a lot of his own people, you know. So I won't defend him on that. And I don't agree with Nick on some of the shit he says. But there are some things that he approaches with common sense. And when I agree with someone, I agree with someone. When I don't agree with someone, I don't agree with them. And I don't mind calling them out.
I see out of the corner of my eye, I get an alert from my Ring doorbell camera that somebody's at the front door. And so I'm reading through my super chats. I'm going through live
You're
chat
on the
messages. Yeah, I'm live. And, I'm working through the messages and I'm keeping an eye on it. And I see that this guy has a loaded gun. The guy's
It's crazy.
Starting to laugh
Imagine.
yeah.
You see
Well,
a guy
you're
with a loaded
live?
gun on your Ring.
live, and
Yeah.
you see
That's
that
crazy.
there's a guy with a gun outside your door.
yes. He's got a motorcycle helmet and a backpack. He's got a gun drawn and he's knocking on the door yelling. And the thing is, I didn't want to tip him off that I knew he was there because I thought, I don't want him to get the drop on me or something. You know, I just didn't want to give him any information about, because I don't know if he's listening to my show. If I start freaking out or cancel the show, I don't know. Maybe he knows more about my movements inside. So I keep the show going for like a minute and I wrap it up very quickly. I finish the show. My producer comes running in and I say, who is that? What's going on? And he goes, oh, I called the cops. They're here. The guy's gone. I said, okay, good. So I start getting changed out of my suit and I hear gunshots go off outside.
Damn.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I literally like jumped to the ground because I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. And I step outside for a minute after the dust kind of settles and there's like 10 cop cars all up and down the street and they have the whole block locked down. Police tape everywhere. There's like a dozen cops. Like I said, the whole block is shut down. The alley is shut down. And they go, get back inside, get back inside. We have no idea what's going on. We have no idea what happened. And they wouldn't let me or my producer leave until the morning. That's how late they were there. And finally, at the end of the night, after all the cops left, I came out in the very early morning.
Did no one come and explain any of this to you?
No, nobody said anything. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And finally, I go out in the morning and I asked the guy, oh, okay, what happened? He told me the story. And so it turns out that it's this young guy. He's 23 years old, white nerd, short guy. He was at U of I, University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, about 2 hours south of where I live. He killed 3 people earlier in the day.
Damn.
He went to his roommate's house, college roommate's house, killed his roommate, killed the sister, the guy's mother, got in his car and drove directly to my house, parked outside my house, got out a .22 pistol and an automatic crossbow. Weird choice. And he knocked on the door, which is where I saw him. He went around the house. He tried the back door, tried the front door, and the cops pulled up. He took off running through the gangway, hopped the fence, ran into the neighbor's house. I guess he went into the neighbor's basement because the door was unlocked. He was hiding from the police. He shot 2 of their dogs, which is devastating. He runs back outside. And the cops see him. He shoots at the cops. The cops shot him in the face and he dies on the spot.
Sounds like Chicago. That's what that sounds like. There's a shootout between a guy with a gun and the cops.
They never told me. To this day, I have no idea.
They never told you?
No.
So what contact did you have with the police after this?
They came by about a week later. Illinois State Police came to retrieve the ring camera footage of the whole incident. And so they had me download that onto a thumb drive. And that's it. I never heard from the cops, never heard from the government.
Not at all?
No, nothing.
A guy comes to murder you. He's murdered 3 other people and 2 dogs. He gets shot to death and no one bothers to tell you anything?
Nope, nothing.
Is it really a country at this point?
No.
I mean,
it's ridiculous. And
so what was his motive? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. So the story that I read online, because obviously the news followed up on this, and they said that, so he was like 5'5". I guess he was involved with drugs, actually, with his roommate. They sold drugs together, something like that. They had a falling out over the drug money or something like that. The roommate beat the shit out of him. So bad he dropped out of school. He had this major falling out with the roommate, but they were close, had a big falling out. The shooter took him to small claims court over some money. And I guess this guy was just in a downward spiral. He lost his job. He got in a hit and run crash and ran from the police. Then he was swearing at the cops when they showed up to arrest him. And I guess his life just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I assume he took it out on the roommate and popped off, killed the whole family.
It's horrifying, but how do you fit into that?
So this is just my opinion, speculation. This is like a month after Luigi Mangione. He had on and the shooter at my house had on a motorcycle helmet and like a costume. And so I think he was maybe like a copycat of Luigi Mangione. He thought he was going to be like a hero and assassinate some reviled political figure who was going viral at that time, being hated for that tweet. So I think...
Yeah, he was definitely hated a lot. I mean, still, even now, you can see some of the people in the chat here are like, basically they can't stand Nick, which I get it. I'm not a defender of Nick. I don't defend anybody. When they make a good point, they make a good point. When they talk shit or say something stupid, I'm on their backs. Simple. Pause.
I think that might have been the motive, but that's pure speculation. I have no idea.
I mean, it's a well-documented fact that all kinds of bad actors use unstable people for political assassinations, right? It's happened. We know it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think this might be an example of that?
Before he jumps into that, because I found this interesting and I couldn't find, like, I don't remember this even being a thing in the news. So I went and looked it up and I found an article. And ironically enough, if we go back, right, because I searched this before I started the episode, right? This is a recurring theme about news that you can't find, right? Usually I'm finding articles by CNN, ABC, right? All of the outlets, all the major outlets. Whenever there's something that's weird or there's, a situation where you have something not being covered, this always happens. You notice, look, anything that has to do with the assassination attempt, there's no ABC outlets. There's none of those. It's WCIA.com, whatever that is. It even says, oh, here we go. Actually, I lied. So AP News, the only one. No other mainstream created an article on that. And even if you go to the next page, which is the second page, everything is, X, Reddit, Facebook, Denver Gazelle. Again, it's just one of those situations where it's like, look, even if you don't like somebody, the news got to cover the news. It just has to. It should. And so this article here from Yahoo News, I just wanted to show, like, This is a real thing. Look, he has the bow in his left hand, bottom of the right, technically, if you're watching the live, but that's his left hand. And in his right hand, he has a 22. That looks like one of those old Russian pea shooters, you know, that has the charger in the back. I think that's what you call that. You know, unlike like a Glock, when you chamber a Glock, you have to you pull the whole top of the slide back and it chambers it. This one's a little bit different, but it is a pea shooter. So dude came ready for action. If he didn't get him with the crossbow, which is a wild ass weapon to even have when you're going to attack somebody, he's gonna get him with the 22. And like, even with a 22, like I've seen people get shot like multiple times, like 4 or 5 times with a 22 and still survive. A 22 isn't necessarily going to take somebody out. Like I didn't know this one guy, he got shot in the head with a 22 and still made it. Now, it wasn't point blank range, but still. So 22s aren't very reliable. But regardless, look at how they start this article, right? White supremacist. Okay. Sure, let's say he is. White supremacist influencer Nick Fuentes claims he was targeted by an armed would-be assassin at his home Wednesday night who was wanted in connection with a triple homicide earlier in the evening. Fuentes posted Ring doorbell videos on X Thursday that appeared to show a man with a gun and a crossbow knocking on his door wearing a motorcycle helmet to disguise his face. The man rests the bow on the wall before pulling out the pistol. When there is no reply, he can be heard shouting, "Yo, Nick!" Fuentes, a well-known far-right Holocaust denier who was once a guest of Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, said he was live streaming at the time of the visit and the man left the address. The gunman was shot later by officers after a late night chase through a nearby residential area, during which he forced himself into a home and shot and killed 2 dogs, according to the police department. So yeah, he wasn't lying. And you know, the fact that it wasn't really covered by mainstream should be one of those things that makes you wonder, like, why not? It's news. Whether you like them or not, it's news. What else are they not covering or giving light to? That's how I look at things. If you don't cover this, what else are you not going to cover? But hey, who am I? I'm just some guy on the internet talking shit.
I don't think so, but it's certainly possible. The reason I say I don't think
it's kind of funny. I mean, I think of you as conspiracy minded, but you don't have a conspiracy in mind here.
No, because right. I really believe that when you look at all these things, and by these things, I mean these like really disturbing instances of violence like Luigi Mangione or Charlie Kirk or these school shootings, there is something going on with these kids. It's nihilism. It's these people that are maybe mentally defective, extremely online. I think there's like a real problem there.
It's not guns.
And I don't doubt that sometimes these people are involved with maybe a foreign government or they're being groomed or put up to it by an operative. But I think to assume that it's always that ignores that, like, there's a very real problem of nihilistic, surrealist violence that comes from young people. And, you know, like this guy it's a triple homicide out of nowhere. And then he tries to kill me. I think he just went crazy, but I could be wrong.
See, and that's just a common sense thought process, which I myself would have came to. Oh, he killed 3 people, then he tried to kill this guy. Like, yeah, the dude has something wrong with him. Like, you don't do that because you see some stuff on the internet. Like, that's not a normal train of thought. Like, we all see shit we don't like on the internet. Does anybody just get up and go do some wild shit because you didn't like something you saw on the internet, or you didn't like what somebody said? No, like, there's more to it. And I think a lot of situations, like I always say on this channel, everything is multifaceted. Someone who grabs a gun and goes and takes somebody out, just like the dude we just talked about from Tennessee who shot 2 people in the factory. He had multiple problems that led to that. It wasn't just one day he woke up, or it wasn't just because he was terminated. Boom, that's it. Same thing with this guy. Same thing with the Minnesota shooter. Same thing with the guy who shot at Trump. Same thing with the guy who shot Kirk. You know, I mean, I guess the guy who shot Kirk, we don't know if it was him just yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to prove it was him. So regardless, all these people have something that went wrong with them. Everything is not always a conspiracy theory. Even though, don't get me wrong, diving into the conspiracy theory and going down that rabbit hole, sometimes it's kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, and I say fun from the perspective of like, okay, what could have happened? Let's brainstorm the craziest ideas. Like, you know, not that I think it's fun that this shit is happening. Don't misquote me now.
Describe the circumstances that have led to this violence. Like, how does a normal young man go from being a normal young man to being a murderer?
Right.
I think that it has a lot to do. If you read through all these stories, they always have a few things in common. which is that, and people have pointed this out, this is not new, SSRIs are always a big one.
Of course.
But what that points to
medication
is a depressive streak. It's always somebody that is a loner, socially dislocated, or socially dysfunctional. You know, they don't have many real life friends, engage in real life activities, slip through the cracks. That's always how it starts. Then they get into either they're medicated by a therapist with SSRIs, or they self-medicate, which is extremely common with alcohol, weed, which is extremely potent now, and you could get THC from like a vape pen. So it's very powerful, very accessible. You know, when I was in high school, my stoner friends would have to like go on a walk to the park and roll a joint. Now with the vape, you can hit that anywhere, I guess.
Of course.
It's very discreet. They also do psychedelics. I think that's a huge part of it. And
how is that a huge part of it?
I think that a lot of them get turned on. They'll do alcohol, marijuana, and then I think they get into psychedelics like LSD or MDMA. And I think those things induce psychosis. These psychoactive drugs, whether it's marijuana by itself or it's LSD, I think they tend to induce psychosis and exacerbate those like existing problems. And basically what happens, I would say that is maybe the next step. And then the other ingredient that's always there is, although they don't have a social life in the real world, they have a social life on the internet.
Yes.
And so they're deeply involved in obscure internet forums, Discord, gaming communities. So increasingly, ChatGPT is inducing psychosis. People talk to ChatGPT all day, all night. And you basically have, between the three of these things, they kind of go into like a different world. Between the psychoactive substances, the make-believe reality of the internet, totally disconnected from the real world, I think they enter into like this delusional state. And I think that's where that shooter in Minneapolis, I think that's what that was. I think if Tyler Robinson is found guilty, there's been some interesting screenshots about him and his transgender boyfriend. It's the same story there, if that's true. And I would imagine it was not dissimilar with the guy that showed up and tried to kill me. I think those are always the ingredients that produce that kind of violence.
I have my own opinion about that. I don't necessarily agree with all of that. I think there are people who are predisposed to being not as strong-minded as some people are. I think also how you're raised, what you're raised around is an important factor to how you deal with problems, how you deal with stress. Stress is a very real thing, right? Someone who's completely stressed out, life is kicking them in the balls, or, you know, in the face, or whatever area you want to call it, it can put you in a space where like you're not mentally fit to deal with one more problem. And then you have parts of America where people are just straight up lonely, like they don't have anyone. You know, we're no longer a community. It's not like before where, you know, you had community, you had the ability to meet up with people, and people were actually actively creating friendships. Now everything is done online, and a lot of times when someone's ostracized out of society, like for example, someone who maybe doesn't have the best intrapersonal communication skills and doesn't have the ability to be able to speak with people or go to a bar and start a conversation, then goes online and then is ostracized from that community, they then find, or their only recourse is then to find, I guess you would say, the wildest thing on the internet, which is where I agree with him on this part, is where there are parts of the internet that if you enter them, they will cheer you on to your demise.